Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. How are you doing today? Hope you are having a sunny day. Ready for some new drama from Askalawyer? Let's go to the first one, about OP, who lives with her parents to help them out as they're struggling. But now OP's mother decided that OP's stepsister and her kids will be moving in as well. But stepsister had an affair with OP's boyfriend in the past. Listen to the story, guys, to find out the details, and of course to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I, 28 female, am currently living with my mom and stepdad in their house, mostly to help them out financially, though I definitely benefit as well. I'm living in a basement apartment, though I do have access to the rest of the house, particularly the kitchen, and spend time with them in the main part of the house. I'm paying for over half the mortgage, utilities, as well as contributing to groceries. What I pay is far more than what they would get from anyone else that might live in there, and I'm doing it to help them, as my stepdad has lost his business. On the other hand, my mom is cooking for me and doing other things so I can concentrate on my job and my online master's degree, which is saving me a great deal of stress. I have a stepsister, Amy, female 25, that I do not get along with at all. I've refused to speak to her since I was 23, after she slept with my then boyfriend for the sole purpose of hurting me. She even admitted that. This was the last in a long line of stunts she has pulled against me, and I decided then that I'm completely done with her. When I was still a teenager, 16 to 18, I actually stopped spending time at my mom's house because of Amy's behavior and the fact that my mom, stepdad, could not make her stop acting out against me. This did cause a lot of resentment on my part at the time that I'll admit I'm not completely over. I do not consider Amy or her kids to be part of my family. My life is better without her in it, as all she did was cause drama. Last week, my mom came down to talk to me about Amy, which I tried to shoot down immediately, but she insisted it was important. Amy's current boyfriend has decided to leave town, which means that Amy will have nowhere to live. They want Amy and her kids to move into the house with us. I said no, I will not live in the same house as Amy. Mom insisted Amy had nowhere else to go and that she wasn't working. Big surprise. I repeated no, I wasn't going to compromise on this. Mom said that this was her and my stepfather's house. I said yes, and if you want Amy to move in, I will move out. I know that right now that if I wasn't here, they wouldn't be able to afford the house. So my statement that I will move out is basically, according to them, blackmail to keep Amy homeless. I view it as I have stated my boundaries, and I'm going to enforce them. I have tried to keep my mom and stepdad out of the middle of me and Amy. Honestly, it seems that if they do need to choose, they always pick her anyway. I simply go to my dad's for holidays and special occasions. I never even asked that she stopped visiting them at the house while I lived there. I would just lock the door to my area and go downstairs. But I will not live under the same roof as her. I've told my mom that if I need to move out because of Amy again, that I will be going no contact with her as well. Am I the a-hole? OP could move out and Amy come in with her children and contribute enough for them to cover home expenses. Or are they planning on OP to pay for the upkeep of 3 adults and some children on her own? Maybe they need to downsize if they can't afford the house they bought. I'm sure there's tons of equity. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Reap Out of My Mind says, not the a-hole. Don't discuss it anymore. You have stated not changing your mind. You made your point. In case of worst case, I would also scan for apartments. Seems like she has been chosen before over you. Only odd thing is that she can't afford the house and she's not working. So kids need clothes and food. Sounds like they expect to take more money from you as well to support them. I'll finish off by saying it is their home and they can't afford it at this time. It's not your responsibility. That's cold, but I hope it does not make it to that point. Okie Legs 1992 says, not the a-hole. You do not need to have the headache of having your stepsister or her brats living in the house you are helping to pay for. The loss from them is you won't be there to fund their house payment or anything else. It seems like you will have to bend over backward for your stepsister, which means that they, your mom and stepdad, will want you to help out your stepsister using the word family. Do what you have to do to be mentally healthy. Update. Well, the pressure has begun. I had my mother giving me a 20-minute lecture about how I was asking her to let 2 innocent children become homeless and how disappointed she is in me. I told her I would move out if she wants me to. Update 2. In short, as many people foresaw, my mom informed me that Amy and her kids were going to be moving in. I left the house and signed a lease for a new apartment that day. When I got back to my mom's house to pack, I told her I was moving out. My mom was upset and actually blamed me for leaving her in a tough spot, though I don't know what she expected. I've decided to go no contact with my mom once I move out, and I wrote her a letter telling her that and explaining my feelings. My whole life, I was extremely close with my grandparents. I spent most days with them as my mother was a young single mother, and she worked and went to university. My grandparents always told me that when they pass, they will leave their house to me as a kickstart for my young family. A few years ago, my grandparents started getting sick. It started with my grandfather getting dementia. His illness took a great toll on my grandmother, who was his primary caregiver. I spent most of my free time visiting them and trying to help them with anything they needed around the house, like cooking, cleaning, and some repairs. My grandfather's illness progressed rapidly, and eventually he needed constant care. A few months later, my grandmother ended up having a hard time breathing and had to go to the hospital to be checked out. Turns out, she had stage 4 lung cancer. Her health deteriorated rapidly, and within 2 months, she passed away. My mother, who has been living on the other side of the country for the last 8 years, came home to see her mother for the last week of her life. At the same time, my grandfather's family, brothers and sisters, along with myself, were taking care of him and arranged for him to go into a nursing home. My mom decides she is moving home to see her father more while he is still alive, and decides to move her family into my grandparents' house. This isn't a problem with me, as I have a house I'm renting nearby, and would rather see them use the house than have it empty. They were also paying the mortgage, so it basically saved me from having to find another tenant to cover the costs. Now a few years have passed, and she bought a bigger house to suit her family about 20 minutes away. So now we are selling the house, and she immediately assumes we are splitting the money 50-50. I asked why she would think that. The house was supposed to be left to me. She knew that was my grandparents' wishes. Our whole family, including great uncles and aunts, knew the house was to be left to me. The crappy thing is, my grandparents never left a will, and my mother, as next of kin, has full control over the estate. She says I should not be greedy, and that she could keep the entire amount when the house sells, and I should be happy I'm getting half. I want to keep the peace with my mother, and I don't want to be greedy, but I can't help feel like I'm being extremely betrayed. Should I just not worry about the over $60,000 to save my relationship with my mother? Well, OP should take her mother's offer and be grateful for it, as OP doesn't have any inheritance and no rights to the house. OP's grandparents should have never promised anything to OP without a will. I get it. It's awful that OP was promised something and didn't get it. But OP can only blame herself and her grandparents. The three of them had to know that OP's mother will be their heir and not OP. And OP's grandparents should have written a will or have given OP that house. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Compass Teddy says, "This one is tough, but I will go with you're the a-hole. Yes, they said to you that the house would be yours, and they should have made a will if this was really that important to them. However, you seem to forget that your mother is their child. The situation would be different if she had no relationship with them or you, but it is not the case. 50-50 is actually fair for both of you, and it will be a kickstart for your family." Extinct Diplodocus says, "You're the a-hole. You should not worry about the over $60K, because according to estate law, it was never yours. Given the lack of a will, your mother is actually being generous to give you half. If your grandparents actually wanted you to get the house, they needed to do more than talk about it." Spoiled Rich White Girl says, "You're the a-hole. You don't have any inheritance. As they didn't have a will, this was always going to go to your mother. You can do whatever you want, but there's nothing you've said here that is cause to think you ever legitimately had inheritance. Even if your mother had not moved, she's still their child, and it would rightfully go to her as they left nothing in writing to prove your claims. You are being greedy under the circumstances." Edit. Just for clarification, grandfather has passed after being in the nursing home for a couple of years. Mother has no siblings. I understand that my mother is legally entitled to the house as there was no will made. I also want to be clear, I haven't actually made a fuss about this issue with my mother. I actually plan on letting this blow over and taking the half of the money and keeping the peace. I just can't help but feel betrayed and wanted to know if I'm right to feel resentment. Trust me, I understand the legal situation. I just can't help but feel my grandparents' wishes should be respected, regardless if they had a will made up or not. Especially as it was common knowledge and even brought up in my grandmother's final weeks of life. I know they would have and should have made a will, but it's hard to understand how fast their health deteriorated, and no one expected my grandmother to be sick and pass away in under 2 months after being diagnosed. We should have gotten their affairs in order when she was diagnosed, but at the time, we were focused on being hopeful and helpful. We didn't talk about the possibility of her life ending until she was too unwell to do any legal work. Looking back, I wish we did, but those moments were spent the best way we saw fit at the time, and we expected to have many more. My 35 male, husband, 37 male, married to a woman when he was in his early 20s, mostly because his conservative family expected him to do so, and at the time, he thought he would never come out of the closet. Nevertheless, 4 years later, when she was pregnant with their second son, eldest daughter was barely 3, he couldn't take it anymore and told her his real orientation. The scandal was big. He was shunned from both families and had to literally escape to a city on the other side of the country. My city, by the way. My husband spent years trying to keep contact with his ex, trying to be involved with the kids and pay child support. But her hate, which I find understandable, was so big that she didn't want anything to do with him, and she didn't want the kids to even know him. We had been together for some months when he got a mail from a lawyer that actually asked him to surrender his paternal rights so that his ex's new husband could adopt the kids. He's not good with confrontation, and by this point, he had already accepted that he had lost his kids, so he signed the papers. This was 7 years ago. Since then, we have made our own life, and honestly, it's a very good one. We both have good-paying jobs we like and have a lot of free time. We travel around the world. We have 3 beautiful dogs, a good apartment. Call it the trauma, but he doesn't want kids, and nor do I. And here's the problem. Recently, both his ex and her husband died. Not really sure what happened. And her sister, the aunt of the kids, got the custody. She doesn't want them, and it seems no one in the family does. Nor his ex's, not his own, not the one of the new husband. According to my husband, it is not out of malice, but because they don't have money and they have their own kids to attend to. So the aunt wanted to return the kids to their biological dad. We contacted our lawyer, and to put it simply, we can refuse. There is no legal obligation, and while my husband could use his bio status to recover the paternal rights, there's no way they can force him to do it. We sent our answer, and the storm came upon us. Online aggression, hateful phone calls and messages, all from the kid's family. The main idea is that he is a deadbeat and a horrible human for leaving his children, especially when we have all the resources to do so. On our side, well, it's sad they are now orphans, but we're speaking about a 10 female that doesn't remember his face and a 7 male that never met him, both going through a very difficult loss and in no way fit for moving to a new city far away from everything they know. Even if we wanted kids and were willing to entirely change our lifestyle for them, they are the worst option I can imagine. We are both on the same page here, but the constant attacks that we have managed to partially stop has made our mind uneasy. So that's why we came here, to ask if we are really being the a-holes in all of this. OP's partner is a horrible person and father. You're the a-hole. He chose to have those kids. He signed them away because he doesn't like confrontation. What a bunch of nonsense. He should never have done that. He needs to step up and take responsibility that he should never have dropped. Those poor kids have nobody, and OP and his partner have the means to provide for them. Their only reason not to seems to be that they have a pretty sweet life right now. Reading that really made me angry. Zero Art says, "You're the a-hole. Not really you as much as your husband. I can't imagine how hard it was to pretend to be someone he was not while he was still in the closet. My heart goes out for that. But he was still a sovereign person who chose to live a closeted life and chose to have children. I cannot stress this enough. The children did not abandon him. His ex-wife should have never refused to let him see them, but it's difficult to get full custody with no visitation rights without proof of aggression or something of the like. I won't make assumptions and fell towards your husband believing it best for the children at the time not to be caught up in the middle of their parents' animosity. But now the children need him, and they are his. He is the a-hole, period. If bringing them into your life would be too difficult, and the two of you don't believe you'll be able to provide them a loving home, I'll understand that. But the very least he can do is offer financial support to the aunt, who would take them were she able, and get to know them. Reddit DK2 says, "Everyone sucks here, except those poor children. Your husband sucks for marrying someone and fathering children under false pretenses, and then walking away from his kids. He should have fought to stay in their lives from the beginning. His ex sucks for vindictively cutting him out of the kids' lives. All the families suck for abandoning two kids whose whole world has been turned upside down. You for describing two kids that lost everything as the worst option I can imagine for having children. I hope those kids find someone who gives a damn about them. Fantastic March says, not the a-hole. So they cut him out, threw him out, stole his children away from him, and now that they need his money, because, mind you, they don't give two ducks, nor even one about your life. They want to throw away the kids to a complete stranger they have no memory of, because it's convenient? Duck them. I hope the kids will get adopted by a loving family that will want them. So, long story short, I, 28 female, have always been on the outs with my family, particularly my sister, Jenna, 32 female. When we were kids, Jenna was the golden child. She was always praised for her achievements, while I struggled to find my place in the family. Over the years, I've come to terms with this dynamic and have since built a life for myself. For the past 6 years, Jenna had cut me out of her life completely. She didn't invite me to family events, birthdays, and we even missed Christmas together. I found out from mutual friends that she was speaking poorly of me behind my back. My attempts to reconcile were ignored. Recently, I was lucky enough to have a startup take off. I'm now financially well off, which has drastically changed my life. Out of the blue, Jenna reached out to me, apologized for the past, and expressing her desire to rekindle our relationship. I was hesitant, but open to the idea. A few weeks into our rekindled relationship, she shared that she's getting married next year. She mentioned that her dream wedding would be costly, and she and her fiancé couldn't afford it. She hinted several times that it would be a nice gesture if I could chip in, suggesting it could be my wedding gift to her. I told her I needed to think about it. My partner believes it's just a ploy to get money from me. I want to believe Jenna's intentions are genuine, but it's hard to ignore the timing. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to pay for my sister's dream wedding after years of being excluded from her life? Deleted user says, not the a-hole. Do not ignore the timing. Your sister is only interested in your money and what it can do for her. She has no interest in actually having a relationship with you. Tell her no and see the fit she pitches. If she really does want a relationship, she will accept your decision at face value. Her past behavior is a good indicator of her future behaviors. It's your money. You worked hard to earn it. I'd say no and walk away from this. Squirrels Are Evil 2479 says, not the a-hole. Don't fall for it. If she is sincere in wanting a relationship with you, she wouldn't be hinting about money. See how fast she disappears if you tell her you're very happy for her and would love to attend the wedding, but you're not paying for it. If she's still around after that, then maybe she really wants to have a new relationship with you. You sound suspicious because there is good reason why she chose now to reconcile. Chenandler Bing Bong 8 says, even if you and your sister were the best of friends, A, it's inappropriate of her to ask you, repeatedly no less, to pay for her wedding, and B, you would not be the a-hole for politely declining for literally any reason. It's your money. As someone planning a wedding she can't really afford right now, I feel very qualified to say you are not the a-hole. No one is entitled to your money, and if she can't afford to throw the party of her dreams, then she needs to adjust her plans. It's a wedding, not urgent surgery or something. And starting your new friendship off with a major financial gift is not going to be healthy no matter what.